All right, looks like we're live. And let me just make sure it's going out okay onto the old YouTubes there. Barrels of a live stream and whatnot. Come on. Come on. All right, sounds all right. So, oh, pardon me. First up, a little bit of house cleaning, a little bit of housekeeping, whatever. The Saturday show may be coming to an end. Really, it's just going to be moved. But yeah, the Saturday night live stream might not be a thing anymore. I'm interviewing this week for a job that might have me working Saturdays. But it's a pretty flexible schedule overall. It's a part-time job at one of these places around here, but it's where they have you work in one day during the weekend, and then it's whatever you sign up for. And I know from people that have worked there that you basically get as much hours as you want, so it becomes sort of a writing your own schedule kind of thing. Yeah, I don't even know if I'll have that job or not. It's just something I'll be interviewing for. We'll see. I assume a lot of other people are interviewing for it. We'll see. But if that happens, I'll talk it over with Artistic Layman, see what night maybe works well for him. I mean, hell, Saturday hasn't even really worked well for him the past few weeks anyways. So I'll still be doing a regular weekday stream. It just may not be the Saturday stream. But in all fairness, the majority of people who listen to these don't even listen to them live anyways. So I don't think it will affect the majority of you who listen. And I'll announce it on next Saturday's stream. I mean, assuming there is a next Saturday stream, who knows? I mean, the interview could go extremely well, and they could tell me to start this Saturday. You know, we'll see. But you know, so like I said, we'll see. It's just a maybe. Nothing definitive yet. Somebody says, when are you bringing CF back on? Hey, he comes on a lot lately. I actually was going to try and get him on last Saturday because I had no guests and no sidekick. So I would have liked to have had him on, but he was busy. He was actually editing his Nostalgia Wound video, which is up just now. And his Nostalgia Wound videos are good stuff. So check them out. So I was thinking, because I did not do nearly enough show prep for a Saturday show. I felt very ill prepared when it happened. I think it turned out okay. It just wasn't as good as most Saturday shows should be. But part of the reason is I'm not following a lot of politics lately. It kind of dawned on me, like, throughout the week I really hadn't. You know, there wasn't any political stories. Like, if I'm driving around, and, you know, I'm driving around a lot these days, you know, if I got nothing but time, so hang out with people, that sort of stuff. I have satellite radio, and I got a year free, actually, and it's kind of spoiled me. I'll probably end up renewing it. But, you know, I'm usually listening to the 90s channel or the Pop 2K. There's a couple of current music channels like Hits and The Blend and the I don't know. What is the other one? I don't fucking know. There's like 3 current channels that are like the 2000s and today or something. There's a family talk religious station on there I listen to sometimes, although there's shit tons of infomercials on there. Oh, there's even a classical station I'll listen to periodically. And then, you know, on terrestrial radio, there's a couple of local religious channels here and, you know, maybe some music channels. I very rarely find myself going over to the AM. If I do, it's usually Catch Savage or Rush. And I mean, I listen to a little bit of them, but um, I'm not listening to a great deal of them anymore. Um, I catch a little bit of news feed on my Twitter, but even that's been letting me down recently because it's just hysterics, practically. It's nothing but Box Day and Andrew Anglin are fighting, and Box Day's whatever, and like who cares? And even on the Trump DACA stuff, I mean, like Trump didn't actually do anything yet, and everybody's flipping their fucking shit. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I made that mistake with the Syria shit, and it turned out to be a big nothing. He flung a couple of missiles that way for show and moved on. Okay. I wasn't happy about it, but nothing I couldn't live with. So I mean, the DACA shit, he hasn't done anything yet. Like he really hasn't. And I also know enough about. Look, like we all exaggerated the 4D chess stuff. Okay, we all did. Yeah, I'm not going back to the big 4D chess stuff. But Trump loves to do that push-pull stuff when he's negotiating. I don't really think he's gonna legalize the Dreamers. I really don't. The Dreamers, the invaders, more fucking like it. I think he's gonna do everything in his power to get the wall built. I could be wrong. And at a certain point, I have to just accept if I'm wrong. There's nothing I can fucking do about it. I mean, I'll do what I can. I'll make my voice heard on the issue, but I'm not going to run around like a fucking hysteric about it. I'm not going to be screaming like a teenage girl about it. I can't do it. I'm in my 30s, okay? I'm in my 30s. So that means that I have basically best case scenario, 7 decades left on this planet, and then I'm dead. Then I go see my maker, and nothing going on here fucking concerns me anymore. And yeah, I want to leave the world a better place, but at a certain point, it's out of my hands. It's out of my hands. I've never gone full on enjoy the decline Aaron Clary style, but you have to have a bit of that in you. You have to have a little bit of that in you. I mean, go to church, read a book, go kiss a girl, do all that shit. Like, you can't be focusing on, especially just the politics too much. I mean, what did I even talk about fucking Saturday? I think like theology and fucking a video game, and then we were talking about Star Trek and Star Wars and shit like that, and just the nature of story. Davis popped in towards the end, and we were talking about the nature of storytelling and that sort of thing. I think that's just more interesting than is Trump gonna the DACA stuff? Like, I don't know. Okay. I don't think he's gonna, but I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, what can I do? Now, that's not to just throw up your hands and don't do anything. Make your voice heard. Certainly vote. I mean, whether you believe it's a good thing or not, we are in a democratic republic. Sadly, turning more and more to straight democracy, but whatever. Point is, there it is. You have a vote. Whether or not you should, you do. So try and use it properly. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, Trump has put the left into full-on derangement mode, and that is red-pilling a lot of people, to use an overused phrase. I don't have a better one. Woken. Let's say woken, because you got to say woke, not awake. Woke. So I guess the woken is what we'll call it now. But yeah, it's You know, the left's going like, look, the Emmys last night. The Emmys destroying itself. You know, nobody wants to watch the Emmys. This used to be this high-rated thing, and it was nothing but 90 minutes of like that fucking Donald Glover. Now he's a decent comedic actor. I give him that. But he's just that typical thinks he's fucking oppressed, chip on his shoulder black dude that you see among the left right now. Not a period, but among the left. You know, he's just African studies motherfucker. You know, he was mad. He was mad that they. Here's a little trivia about Donald Glover. He wanted to be Spider-Man in a movie. He wanted to play Peter Parker. And, you know, they were like, no, we're not doing that. We're not, you know, because they were thinking of rebooting Spider-Man. And Andrew Garfield at that time got the role. Donald Glover did not. They were like, no, we're not having a black Spider-Man. Peter Parker's not black. There was one time they actually had the good sense to say, no, this is not a case where we should be changing the race. You know, this is not some minor character where you can just do that. And he got so pissy. He had some like shitty fucking rap song. And he's all like, I can't be Spider-Man, but no, I'm spitting venom. And so it was fucking cringy as shit. But he was a big Spider-Man fan. And a lot of Bendis over at Marvel actually, I guess, took pity on him. The whole reason that Miles Morales character fucking exists is Bendis made that to kind of be Donald Glover. And indeed, that character has appeared in some sort of animated form on one of these various cartoons, and Donald Glover did the voice of it. So that whole the Black Spider-Man was created just to, you know, be an olive branch to this whiny fucking celebrity. And he's still not happy. He got up there on the Emmys last night. He won some fucking diversity award participation trophy last night. And he got up there and he's like, Donald Trump made blacks the most oppressed people in the world again or something. And it's like, nigga, how? I mean, I could at least understand somebody saying that about Mexicans or Muslims. I could at least see where your albeit flawed logic is going there. But what did he do against black people? What do you even perceive that he did against black people? Nothing. You heard from that dude Rachel Maddow that he's a racist, so you're like, he's a racist. That's all I need to know. You empty-headed fucking overpaid puppet. And that's what actors are, by the way. They're fucking puppets. All right? They're fucking empty individuals usually, just by the nature of what they have to do. I mean, the nature of their job more often than not means they're empty-headed buffoons. Because their heads kind of have to be fucking empty vessels to be filled with whatever the writer puts in it. Ugh. And again, you know, it was all Colbert fucking sorry, phone going off there. Jerking off about, oh, Trump, Trump, am I right? You know, and then it's just the lowest rated Emmys in years. Decades, I think. Nobody fucking watched it. Shit, I didn't even know it was on. I watched the Orville, which was delayed because of sports ball. Oh, fuck. I hate liking Sunday shows. It was a curse growing up with liking stuff like The Simpsons and Futurama and Family Guy back when it was worth watching. You know, there was always delayed by fucking football. Football's cucky. It's always been cucky. It's less cucky. All right, it's more cucky now, which is why finally people are, you know, stepping back from it. But sports ball fans have always kind of been cucky. Orville's pretty good, though. I mean, it's hardly, you know, the greatest show I've ever seen, but it's thoroughly entertaining. You know, yeah, it's kind of a comedy, but it does sort of, it's a very loving parody, which are usually the best kind. And often they're the kind that can stand alone on their own without even knowing what it's parodying. But yeah, it's a solid show. I hope it stays around. last year Fox had something called Son of Zorn, which was fucking outstanding, and it didn't get picked up, which is a shame. It was great. That fucking the thing to Mick got picked up. I don't know if you'd seen that, but it was like, you know, some aunt is in charge of these kids, and it's got like a little cross-dressing 10-year-old kid in it. It's just unfunny. Again, that safe rebellion, but just unfunny trash. It got fucking picked up somehow. It's a shame. Son of Zorn was really good. And Rick and Morty's pretty good this season. I was a little worried it was rough, but I mean, let's see. Right now I got The Orville, Rick and Morty, and then Flash and Arrow. So it's 4 shows now I like on TV. 4 shows out of like 300 fucking channels that I like on TV. And I mean, odds are I could probably watch all of them online. I bet you I could watch The Orville on like Fox.com or some shit like that. I know I can watch Flash and Arrow online. And I know I can watch Rick and Morty online. Yeah. The other thing I want to kind of talk about is that show Big Mouth. Everyone's rambling on about. This is another kind of a knee-jerk reaction I see. I don't find anything about it offensive. Not a fucking thing. I'm not outraged. I'm not offended. I need a drink. I'm coughing like fucking DSP over here. Well, actually, I'm not honking and snorting, so that's what DSP would be doing. But still, no one wants to hear me cough. Somebody in the chat mentions BoJack Horseman. I really haven't seen that. I've been meaning to, though. I saw the season 1 DVD at Target for pretty cheap. It was like $15 or something like that. It was on sale. If I see it there next time I'm there, I might just grab it. If I don't like it, I could even just sell it back or sell it to the retro game store in my area does use DVDs, and they sell them really cheap, so they don't give you much for it, but you can at least get, $1 back for it or something like that. But yeah, like Big Mouth, nothing about it honestly offends me. Nothing about it do I consider outrageous. People are like, it's sexualizing kids. Let's be real, okay? Like, let's not fucking act like we don't remember being 12 or 13. Okay? You were sexually curious at 12 or 13. You were sexually awakened. The subject matter doesn't bother me, to be honest. I don't believe it's a show that's aimed for children. If children watch it, I believe that's a fault of the parents, not the people who made the show. I'm so sick of this nonsense that and it's a long time coming, but this idea that, children might see it. So what? Adults are not allowed to have shows geared towards adults because a kid might watch it. So we just got all the R-rated movies got to go too, I guess. No. Even animated stuff. There's very clearly adult animation. Now, I don't think Big Mouth looks good. I think it looks cringy as fuck. I think it looks just awful. As I said again, safe rebellion. Pathetically safe rebellion. There's nothing edgy about it. There's nothing outlandish about it. It's just... I don't even think it's that funny of a subject matter. Certainly not funny enough to warrant a whole show. And I think I've lost my train of thought there. I think in the hands of better writers, you could take a premise like this and make something interesting out of it, make something worth watching. That's not what this is. This is just very clearly on. I mean, the trailers don't make me laugh at all. And this is supposed to be your A game, is what you're supposed to put in the trailers, right? It doesn't make me laugh. It just looks bad. It looks cringy. That said, though, again, like, if you just, like, unbeknownst to them, like, could be a fly on the wall in a middle school, I think some of you who apparently don't remember it would be shocked at how fucking foul-mouthed and dirty and perverted these fucking kids' minds are, as they're constantly trying to appear mature to each other. That's the big thing. And I mean, hell, when I was a kid, when I was in middle school 20 fucking years ago, it was like that. So no, the inherent subject matter and like, oh, it's promoting pedophilia. I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I don't think there's anything about the inherent subject matter that's something that can't be done. I'm very, very cautious about ever saying what can't be done when it comes to humor. Yeah, I'm very, very unlikely to say that something can't be done in humor. More often than not, maybe it shouldn't. Again, more often than not, because it's just cheap, it's easy, it's hard to do well. And, there is something disturbing about adults constantly being obsessed with depictions of childhood. I don't have any fucking longings for middle school days. Those days were awkward and weird and confusing. Okay. My voice is cracking every 2 seconds. You're popping a boner constantly for no reason, as your body's slowly turning, yeah, there's nothing like I have no fond memories of school in general, let alone middle school. The most awkward of fucking ages. But no, I think a lot of people are overreacting to it. It just looks like trash. It doesn't look like I've heard people call it like peak degeneracy. No, good God, no. you'd probably be better off letting a kid watch that than Samantha Bee. Probably less likely to rot their brain. But yeah, I don't think it's peak degeneracy or anything like that. I mean, like people are like, oh, there's a talking vagina in it. I'm like, there was a talking clitoris in the South Park movie, and that was like 15 years ago. I mean, shit. Do you remember the cartoons MTV used to air back in the day? God, they were good. Do you remember Ren and Stimpy? Do you remember the MTV versions of Ren and Stimpy? You ever see the DVD of the Ren and Stimpy episodes? They weren't even allowed to air on TV. My friend got that like one time in the mid 2000s. He picked it up at like, I don't know, some place that was selling DVDs. He's like, oh, I used to like Ren and Stimpy as a kid. And like I was over at his apartment, we were watching that. That was peak degeneracy, motherfucker. I don't even want to talk about the shit that was going on in that. That was hot. We didn't even get through it. I shut it off. Somebody says peak degeneracy was the Mick or modern MTV. Yeah, those are probably far more degenerate. I mean, hell, in the Mick, as I understand it, it's a prepubescent boy getting turned into a tranny. Again, I think it's trash. I have no interest in watching it. But no, I'm not upset about it. I'm not gonna I'm not going to give it some free publicity because, you know, most people, if you tell them like you can't watch this, it's too edgy. Most people are going to be curious about it. If you want that show to fail, mock how pseudo edgy it is. But yeah, nothing about it. I mean, let's be real. You know, I'm quite certain, like the scenario where it's the talking vagina. This little girl is like wants to know what her fucking vagina looks like, so she puts a mirror down there to see. I have to imagine tons of fucking girls do that. I have to imagine because yeah, they're curious about their bodies and shit. I'm not. And oh, it's a talking vagina. Yeah, it's a talking vagina because it's a stupid comedy cartoon. You know, the vagina talks for the same reason the dog talks in Family Guy. All right, because it's just cartoon logic. Like I said, it doesn't look good, um, but you know, nothing about it offends me. You know, oh, it's so offensive. No, come on. Calling it offensive is giving it too much credit. That's really what you're doing when you're sitting there being outraged by it. You're giving Big Mouth entirely more credit than it deserves. It is not worthy of outrage. It is not worthy of being offended. It is not worthy of anything other than looking at it and just what's the meme of Principal Skinner looking down going pathetic. You know, that's all that thing is worthy of. You know, whatever the Twitter account for Big Mouth is, just fucking tweet that Skinner pic, pathetic. Because that's what it is. It's just sad and pathetic. Fake pseudo rebellion. Hot topic rebellion. Yeah, calling it offensive is giving it entirely too much credit. To offend me would mean it got an emotional reaction out of me of some sort, and other than you know mild not even disgust, you know, just again like just looking at it and thinking it's pathetic. I mean, like Amy Schumer isn't offensive. Amy Schumer is again that's giving her too much credit. She's just unfunny. You know, she's pathetic. You know, offensive is because first of all, a lot of times good comedy should be offensive because it should be challenging. You ever see, and you should look it up on YouTube. It's a rant from Duckman, the show Duckman. Now that's back when adult animation could be both crude and also incredibly smart. Duckman is a fantastic show. I highly recommend checking it out. Um, but he has this rant on there where he talks about safe comedy. And he says, like, you know, comedy should be offensive because it should be challenging, you know? And he says, you should demand the right to be offended, to be treated like an adult, a thinking human being. Which, of course, you know, that's the antithesis of the SJW mindset. And sadly, it's occasionally the antithesis of some on the right. Um, you know, there's only the one way a lot of them are willing to be edgy, and that's say, you know, they just wave a Nazi flag or something. But yeah, calling these things offensive, that gives them far too much credit. Because if you were offended by it, you'd been challenged by it. No, no, nothing about Big Mouth challenges me. Like, yeah, I know a 13-year-old girl is probably curious about what her pussy looks like. It's not really funny. The way they portray it isn't really funny. I'm not a woman myself, so I can't even relate to it, you know. But I couldn't relate to anything the boys were doing other than, you know, I can't even see. Like it manages to be so over the top that it's not relatable, but it's trying to be quote unquote relatable at the same time. It fails on a lot of levels, honestly. But yeah, offensive isn't the word. Like I said, offensive is giving it too much credit. And again, by the way, look at Duckman. Duckman's a keen example. Duckman couldn't go on Netflix right now. Duckman couldn't be aired on TV right now. With as politically correct and sensitive as things are, you wouldn't be able to get away with what Duckman got away with. Isn't it weird when you go back and look at some of these shows? How much, like, in some ways it seems tame, like the edgy shows, and in some ways you could never get away with that now. Like, you go back and watch Married with Children. Again, damn good show. I mean, it ran for 7 years. It had its ups and downs, but at the very least, I would invite you to check out like a best of Al Bundy thing on YouTube or something. But like, you know, the girls in bikinis and stuff were so racy for prime time at the time, and nowadays it's like nothing. You know, if anything, it would be offensive because they're not fat or something. But all the gay and fat and jokes and women jokes and stuff from Al Bundy, that shit would never be on the air now. Yeah, that would never be allowed on the air. But saying, you know, I'm offended because the show acknowledges the right that you know, 12 and 13-year-old kids are sexually curious. That's somehow like you didn't know that, I guess, or you think that, like, oh, that's not true. You know, no, of course it's fucking true. It's not necessarily funny. It's certainly not funny the way they point it out. But don't be like, oh, kids, 13-year-old kids don't think that. No, they don't think like that. You're trying to sexualize them. Come on. Right around the age of about 12, maybe a little later, maybe a little earlier, right around the age of 12. A little something kicks in your body. This little change starts triggering. And right around that time, you kind of are a sexual being. Now, I'm not saying kids that young should be acting on it, because sadly, you know, they, especially in our culture right now, they still have the minds of children. But let's not, I mean, you know, like if you have a 12-year-old son and he comes home from school and he makes a beeline to the bathroom, you know, all grumpy, and then he comes out smiling, you know what he's doing? You know, he's been looking at 12-year-old girls and, you know, in their tight jeans and skirts all day, trying not to pop a boner. He's got to get the poison out. Let's not act like humans aren't humans, all right? Let's not act like the more unpleasant aspects of human nature. Let's not be naive to what human nature really is here, folks. You know, when puberty kicks in, a kid becomes sexually curious. I mean, that's biology 101. I'm sorry to, like, you know, I mean, there's actually people in the chat that are like, no, it's just because of our degenerate times. Yeah, a 13-year-old never thought of sex before then. You know, they just assumed it was the I don't know, the reason they had hair on their nuts was because of the testicle fairy. Come on. But again, to just trot that out there and be like, aren't I edgy for pointing out the fact that, kids in puberty think about sex? Oh, yeah, you're super edgy there, bro. Why, next, you might even point out the fact, you might even dare to suggest that sometimes high schoolers have sex. Oh, my God. Who knew? It's just lame. And I just, even if it was written well, I don't think you could maintain a whole show based off of it. Like if you had if you were actually like focusing on a family and like maybe the one kid is like 12, and we see him or her going through this stuff as like part of an overall show, maybe then, maybe then you'd have something, but the state of a lot of these writers, probably not. Again, just pseudo fake rebellion. Somebody in the chat was like, high schoolers shouldn't have sex. I think, yeah, we don't live in Shudland. I'm going to tell you. Yeah, they do. You're going to sit here and act like it's not happening? Or act like it's fucking TV that did it? No, teenagers want to fuck. It's not the Jews that put that in their mind. Kind of Mother Nature. I mean, let's not forget that just a few hundred years ago, which in terms of, the evolution of a species, of the shaping of our instincts and that kind of thing, a drop in the damn bucket. Just a few hundred years ago, you were pretty much, a young lady was pretty much married off at 13 or 14. And she was pumping out kids in her teens. Now, I'm not saying that we should be going that way. I'm saying that's what was the norm for the vast majority of the history of our species. So given that, is it surprising that around the age of 12 and 13, kids start to become sexually curious and aware? Is it surprising that around the age of 15, 16, 17, they just desperately want to fuck? Well, you could sit here and talk about what should be all day long. But at a certain point, you gotta also look at what is. Don't be naive about it. I mean, honestly, if a 16-year-old doesn't want to fuck, something's wrong with them. If they don't at least have the urges to want to fuck, if they're, if a 12, 13-year-old boy isn't starting to notice the girls in his class and starting to think maybe they don't have cooties, something's wrong with them. If anything, you got to be concerned he might be noticing the boys. Somebody in the chat said the Jews are why I like the big tits at 12 years old. Before that, I was an innocent kid. Yep. Zog come along and just put those thoughts of boobs in your head. Yeah, it's not. It's not be. Let's be real about the world around us, right? But yeah, again, I'm not going to get all worked up about Big Mouth. It's not worth getting worked up about. Nobody's. The only people going to watch. The the only likely people to watch it are the ones, that are like, hear you all bitching about it and be like, well, maybe I should check this show out. People are saying I'm not allowed to watch it. That makes it edgy and enticing. Like I said, calling it pathetic is the only thing that it deserves to be called. Edgy is giving it too much credit. Offensive is giving it too much credit. Somebody says, honestly, I'm more mad at it for being a complete abortion against art. Yeah. Yeah, that art style is fucking rough. Let's see. I prefer people watch anime though. I'm nothing degenerate going on in anime, right? No, nothing. It's funny. I think a gentleman named Kurt Eichenwald. I think he discovered some interesting things about anime. You might want to talk to him. Yeah, somebody saying the art style is painful to look at, like physically painful for me. Yeah, I think it looks like ass. It's a shame. There's good stuff on Netflix too. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with that. That guy, Droll or whatever, is the one creator behind it. Some D or E or F list comedian. But I mean, Netflix got shit like Stranger Things and Daredevil, and I mean, hell, Fuller House. If you've never seen it, Fuller House is actually refreshingly wholesome. It's not as corny as the original show, but it's just refreshingly wholesome for a TV show here in the current year. I actually kind of recommend it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a refreshing change of pace. Somebody says, Bechtloff, thoughts on Jonathan Ross? I think I said on Twitter earlier today, I'm not convinced Jonathan Ross is a real person at this point. I think just all the autism in the culture kind of congealed. It reached some sort of critical mass where it congealed into a physical form, and then it like went on YouTube and started looking up kids in the bathtub. Like, I think that's what happened there. Yeah. I mean, that guy is one. That's some autism right there. Like I said, I think that's just autism personified. Yeah, scientists are still struggling to understand the phenomenon, but yeah, I don't talk about John and Ross. He's going to jail most likely, because I mean, he's admitted on streams that like first he was talking about he likes to look at pictures of kids in bathtubs because he thinks it's cute. I personally, I get weirded out when I've had like coworkers before, like showing me pictures of grandchildren or something in the break room, and there'd be like one in the bathtub, and I'm like, that's just kind of fucking weird. Why would you don't do that? Why would you take pictures of that even? Like, what do you? I don't know. Like, just I know it's a kid and they don't really have any concept of privacy, but you should be teaching them concepts of modesty and privacy. But yeah, so yeah, he was claiming it was just innocent, which I mean, I didn't buy. Nobody bought it, but I guess you could actually argue it, except that he was looking him up constantly. He said he was looking him up like all the time for like a year. That's not like an innocent. Like I just looked at it one time and thought the kids were cute and I laughed at it and moved on. That's something else. And then he outright admitted in these streams that he has feelings for children, in that way, as it were, and that he's, got all these violent tendencies and shit. I mean, the guy, and he said one thing that was really interesting where he's like, I just don't know what makes right or wrong anymore. And like I believe he doesn't know. He doesn't know. And the guy needs to be in a nut house at the very least. I don't know if you can even help a person like that psychologically, but if possible, that's what needs done. But at the very least, he's a danger to himself and more importantly, others. And he needs to be shuttered away. Somebody's saying, wait, who? It's Jonathan Ross. If you're not familiar with the saga, Medicare has like 3 videos on it, so check it out. Somebody says, Bechtloff, favorite Al Bundy quotes. Oh, there's a lot of great ones. One of my favorites was he said some smart ass thing to this fat chick, and then she's all like, how dare you say that to my face? And he goes, well, I'd say it behind your back, but my car's only got a half a tank of gas. Al Bundy was fucking fantastic. Married with Children's a great show. I thoroughly recommend Married with Children. If I'm flipping through the channels and I find it on rerun, I'll usually stop on it. So he says, Bechtloff, how many years have moved up? Oh, wait, he asked it again. Okay. Bechtloff, how many years of education does a child need? And should the mother teach earlier skills? I think high school is about right. I think that's what it should be. Now, I think the high school there should be a lot more VOTEC, a lot more shop classes, as they used to call them, a lot more like that in high school, preparing people to do actual real work. Yeah, there's always going to be, white collar jobs. There's always going to be, people that work more with their mind than their hands even, but those people are the exception. Most people, we need plumbers, we need electricians, we need welders, as long as there's a civilization, the toilet's got to flush, the lights got to come on periodically. We got to slap some couple of pieces of metal together. So I think the current 12 grade system is fine. I think it just needs to be refined on what it deals with. I've heard people talk, like people say like all the last grades of high school need to be done with. And if anything, I think, we're sending kids to school entirely too early. Like, there's kindergarten and pre-K and, I mean, your kid's barely off the tit and you're fucking throwing them to the wolves, these kids are just going entirely too fucking early. Just no. I understand the desire to socialize them with other kids. I would do away with if a school offers kindergarten, it should never be more than half a day. But I would even like maybe cut that and like maybe first grade's half a day kind of situation or something. I mean, personally, if I had a kid, and I don't know that I'm even ever going to have kids. I mean, I'm not married right now and I'm 34. So, I'm getting up there. Let's face facts. I'm not old by any stretch, but I'm not a kid anymore myself. And I mean, hell, if I married tomorrow, he'd be looking at least a year and a half or so before I'd want kids. I mean, I'd want to enjoy the honeymoon phase of my marriage. So I don't know that I'm ever going to have kids. I don't even particularly know if I want them. I'm not sure I have quite the temperament for such a thing. That said, though, if I had kids, I think I'd homeschool them in the early years, at least until third grade. Then maybe send them into school for fifth grade. Maybe like send them to high school, but don't send them to the other ones. And homeschooling, you can have networks, you can make sure kids are socialized and all, and you know, I mean, hell, if you lived where I grew up, at least it was such a really wonderfully laid out kind of just the right amount of population dense suburb that there were always other kids to play with. I mean, I never met any of my really close friends as a kid through school. I was always sad that the close friends that lived near me weren't in the same class or something like that. Um, but yeah, the early years, I mean, there's nothing a kid would learn through at least the first 5 grades of school. You couldn't easily teach them, especially with the internet. You can look shit up now. I mean, you know, you, I realize most people use this great thing for pornography and cat videos, but this is this vast repository of information right at your fingertips. Um, well, yeah, like I said, I don't even know if I particularly want kids, but if I did have a kid, I'm open to the idea of it. I'm not like, oh, never going to have kids. Just, I don't know if I will. I don't know if that's something for me or not. But if I did, that's the other thing. If I had a kid, I'd be much more concerned before deciding to have a kid over what I can offer them, as opposed to, I want kids. It's not about what you want. It's about what you can do for that potential new life. Not about what you want. If you're just looking for affection, go get a puppy. All right. But yeah, I would probably homeschool the early years. I mean, what, you know, it's like, basic math, basic reading, you know, basic, ever so basic grasp of world history and American history and stuff like that. You know, I mean, I learned a lot more from my parents and a lot of the adults I knew through them, you know, and just being a curious kid and wanting to read on stuff. And then throughout high school and all, wanting, than I ever did through the bullshit school system. The school system was a fucking joke. Let's see. Um, Somebody says teach them the entire history of Marvel Comics. No, I think I teach them the history of Marvel Comics up until about 2012, and then I'd be like, and then they stopped making Marvel Comics. But what about these other ones? They stopped making Marvel Comics, son. There might be these other things that say Marvel Comics, but no. It's like in the Lion King. That's the everything the light touches is yours. What about that shadowy part past 2013? You must never go there. Somebody said, going through the chat here. Um, Somebody making. Oh, here's something. Um, I know that's a Will Smith's kid. Did I read that comment? I feel like I did, but it said I'm more worried about Will Smith's son having his own self-inserted anime based on the trailer. He has his own waifu. The boy ain't right. Well, yeah, Jaden Smith is fucked in the head. I was not aware he was being given his own anime. Apparently, Daddy can still buy some influence for him. Yeah, I think a lot of this I already read. On. Scroll down then. Um, Somebody says, Bechtloff, would you rather have a son or a daughter? I mean, I don't know. I personally think I would find a son easier to raise. Um, you know, be worried a daughter would actually be able to. Um, I just feel like a daughter would be harder to discipline. I'd be too much of a softie with her. Beckloff, what if I wanted you to do an hour on the Inhumans? I mean, I could do that. The history of the Inhumans is kind of interesting. But yeah, if you're serious about it, get in touch with me on Skype or something. We can work out a price. Somebody says, how is Will Smith still relevant? Fresh Prince was over years ago. Well, I mean, he did a lot of cool shit after Fresh Prince. Men in Black's really good. Independence Day was good. And then, yeah, it was kind of it now I think about it. And Men in Black was 20 years ago. I mean, Will Smith's charming and all. I mean, everybody, he seems like a cool dude. Will Smith's still cool. I don't mind seeing Will Smith and stuff. It's just his entire talentless family. I really wish he'd stop forcing them on us. Somebody says Ennis is a hack. Are you talking about Garth Ennis? He kind of is. Somebody says thoughts on Irini's discussion with John Steele. I didn't really hear it. I mean, from what I understand, Irini threw him out, but other than that, I don't really know what happened. I assume, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I'm not going to sit here and, speculate. I didn't really listen to it. Like, I kind of hopped in briefly, and then it was like, whatever, and then I fell out. And then when I had come back in, Steele was already gone. Somebody says, do you think Spider-Man will ever get a Netflix show? That's honestly what they should have done instead of a movie. Because, like, let me put it this way. If people have asked me before, like, what do you think will happen when these Marvel shows kind of or Marvel movies run their course, and then they're not as profitable anymore? I'd like to see them kind of let Marvel, Disney ought to shelf them for a while. Let that kind of die down a bit and then bring them back years later. Things always go in cycles. You can make them popular again years later. And what I think they ought to do at that point is forget movies, do shows, because you can do so much more then. Like with Spider-Man, like you're never going to get to Carnage in a series of movies. You know what I mean? Because like you'd have to first have Spider-Man established, then you got to do the Venom stuff, then you can get to Carnage. So I mean, as far as a TV show, you're looking at like seasons 3 or 4 before you get to Carnage. You know what I mean? So yeah, in a TV show running about 7 to 10 years, you can do so much awesome shit that you can't do in even a movie series that runs for 10 years. Because 10 years of a movie series, what, maybe you get a dozen movies out of it, as opposed to hundreds of episodes of a show. So yeah, I would prefer a show, but somebody says make Spider-Man married again. Yeah, I would be a big fan of that. Matt Forney says, you'll note that I was silent during much of that discussion with Irini and Steele. There's a reason for that. So he said, Bechtloff, who are some of your favorite comic book artists? Well, you know what? I can do a few of them right off the top of my head. And I wish I had Luke here for the visuals. But Amanda Conner, one right there. Amanda Conner, when you first just look at like pinup drawings of her and all, it's good, but it's nothing you'd be like, oh, that's amazing. But when you see her telling a story, when you read an Amanda Conner drawn comic book, that one, it's said that in one sense, a comic book artist is an actor. and she's a phenomenal actress. She has a grasp of sequential storytelling, the art of telling a story with these panels that is just breathtaking. Another one right off the top of my head, I mean, some of the common ones you'll hear all the time, like Alex Ross. Yeah, Alex Ross's stuff is just gorgeous. There's no denying that. One I never hear people talk about, and it's a shame. He worked on both the Sonic the Hedgehog and the Mega Man comic books over at Archie. Patrick Starzansky or something. I can't remember. He always went by Spaz, S-P-A-C, which I know is funny, like, oh, Spaz, Spurg, whatever. But, drawing things like Sonic or Mega Man, these are obviously cartoon styles, but he was able to bring such a weight to these things, making them seem epic. It's so hard to describe without visual aids, but it's something to behold. If you look up, like, Google, like, Archie Sonic and Archie Mega Man and then Spaz, again, I can't remember what the hell his name is. It's Patrick something, but just gorgeous stuff. Another one is George Perez. Man, George Perez, the amount of detail he puts into things is breathtaking. The way George Perez can take even the shittiest looking superhero costume and make it seem cool. He's a master at doing team books like Justice League and Avenger. In fact, he did the artwork on the Justice League Avengers crossover. And I mean, he's one of these guys who will do this big splash page of like 40 superheroes, and supervillains having this huge battle. And, as small as everybody is, you can make everything out. It's amazing. Mark Bagley, another great artist. I talked about him in the Thunderbolts live stream I did. He did tons of great Spider-Man. He was an artist on Amazing Spider-Man for a while. He was the artist on Ultimate Spider-Man for something like 100 plus issues. Absolutely amazing. Can't recommend that guy enough. Other ones, Tom Grummett, really good stuff. He did the second volume of Thunderbolts. He did a Superboy comic back in the 90s with that like teenage clone of Superman that was kind of a douche and more interested in chasing pussy. I'd like to talk about that on a stream sometime. The 90s Superboy is a pretty interesting little book. But yeah, a lot of great artists out there. It's a shame the trash Marvel publishes, given the amount of talent. And I mean, you can go on DeviantArt and obviously you find cringy bullshit. You know what I mean? I'm not disputing that. But there are real diamonds in the rough there. There are some talented artists just churning away fan art on DeviantArt that if Marvel had any fucking sense, they would scoop up. Somebody says, Bechtloff, how about Marvel and DC do something wild and make a TV series entirely devoted to the rise of villains like Darkseid, Thanos, Apocalypse, or Brainiac? I'd be okay with that. That sounds good. And it would be something that would be kind of fresh to the Gen Pop, that's already seen a lot in these superhero movies. I'll tell you what was a real missed opportunity. They did that Agent Carter show that like got canceled, where it was like Captain America's girlfriend while Captain America was taking his ice nap. You got this show set in what, like the late 40s, early 50s, something like that. That was such a missed opportunity because what they could have done there is they could have focused on a lot of the golden age characters Marvel owns that you just never really see anymore. That would have been great. A lot of characters like the Destroyer, Miss America, characters like that, that would have been something that would have been completely new to the Gen Pop and would have been really interesting to see. But instead they made it, all about feminism. She was a lady spy back when they didn't like lady spies. That was the premise of that show. which is bullshit because they always like lady spies. Even Sun Tzu said, send your enemies prostitutes to get information. Everybody always preferred women as spies. Somebody says, Bechtloff, you ever check out the any of the Astro City stuff? I've been meaning to. I've never really checked that out, but I've heard lots of good things about it, and it's kind of one of those things I've been meaning to read. But yeah. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. It's going on for about an hour. I want to thank everybody for listening. If you enjoy the show, there's the tip jar down below where you can send me some shekels. And shekels are greatly appreciated, especially this month. It's kind of a tight month. And yeah, so like I said, send me some shekels. Greatly appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And like I said, might be moving the Saturday show. We'll see. And also check out the VidMe channel. Good stuff on there. New stuff coming. Check me out on Twitter, Gab, Facebook, the Bechtloff, on all those places. And yeah, that's all we got for tonight, folks. I want to thank you all for listening. Bechtloff out.